His namesake. There's Gerry.
Hey, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes, we
indeed.
can, Gerry. Coming in loud and clear.
Oh, cool. Okay. Is the light okay? It's
Yeah, you're a little dark, but that's okay.
you sure?
Yeah, I
hang
think
on. Maybe I
we
can
have-
change that.
I got to get my Just for Men beard dye.
No.
You think
Don't
it
you
makes me
Yeah.
look extinct? Yeah, there you go, Gerry.
It makes you look extinguished. Plus, all the young girls like the extinguised beard look. So you're good.
Was that it? You really? Yeah. Covers my
That could be
jowl.
it. Yeah. I totally agree with that.
So, Gerry, you're in Paris?
No, we're in it's called Central France. It's
Okay.
the Loire Valley.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. But we
And
can get to Paris quite easily.
How was life there amid COVID?
It's the same as everywhere else, you know. I mean, we have curfews every night from 7 o'clock in the evening till 6 a.m. the next morning.
Okay.
And they're discussing. I mean, Paris, I think, is going back into lockdown.
Yes, I believe the UK as well.
Possibly the UK, but I think the UK are getting the vaccines out a lot better than here in Europe, you know.
You know, have you gotten your jab yet?
I haven't. April. I'm due to have a jab in April, or the first one anyway. So fingers crossed.
Okay. Well, David, you actually survived COVID, David.
Yes, I had 9 really awful days.
Oh, really?
I have a 16-year-old daughter, Gerry, and I said to her, "Don't have your friends over." And of course, you know, what do I know?
Yeah, I know. You're only the dad.
Yeah. And my music's old, and I'm uncool anymore, you know.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Well, I'm glad you survived. That's good to hear, anyway.
Yeah, it's good. The weird thing was, I was starving the entire time.
Really.
And that's such a bizarre symptom. So I lost my taste buds. My wife made a ham sandwich with Coleman's. I could have eaten an entire bottle of Coleman's mustard, and I wouldn't have, not
Wow,
a thing.
crazy. That's crazy, really.
Yeah. My only concern now is I'm still not 100% into coffee, you know, and I was a big coffee drinker, and I just haven't gotten the full taste backs. But
Well, maybe that's not a bad thing.
yeah, exactly. So, Gerry, I got to tell you, I was looking on your bio and stuff, and I did not know John Paris had a Cream 55 bass.
57, I think it was, yeah.
Because I was in his original band. I was a bass player in his original band.
Wow.
And I never saw that bass.
Wow.
Oh, would I have loved the chance to have played that one? It looks beautiful.
Yeah, it's a nice instrument. It certainly is. I used it quite a lot with Rory, obviously, over the years.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I noticed, and I had seen you guys back in the 70s. I think I saw you with Rory 77, 78. I noticed on a YouTube video, and that's where we get our information now, that you actually had the ashtray, the big thick plate, down by the bridge. Was that to rest your palm when you were playing with a pick?
Yeah, yeah. As far as I can remember, yeah. I mean, I took that off eventually.
Okay.
But I mean, I still have it somewhere, you know. It's but I can't remember the reason why I left it on. It's probably because it was there when I bought it.
Okay.
So and possibly when I was using the plectrum, yeah, it might have helped. Yeah.
It did. I think, you know, because I'm always, you know, David and I, we love to drill holes in basses. You know, I mean, it's not an instrument unless you drill a hole in it, right?
That's true. Yeah.
It's not your own.
And, you know, I saw that and I said, wow, that's a great idea, because when you're playing with a plectrum, you tend to play by the bridge, and, you know, your palm can get scraped on the bridge, the old Fender bridges.
Right, yeah. Or you could dampen it by mistake or whatever,
Yeah.
you know. So, I mean, I never thought about that. Probably in my mind's eye, maybe that's the reason why, yeah, because of the plectrum, yeah.
All right, so that could be a custom. We should get called custom Fender Fender custom shop.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, Gerry, we were interviewing Rick Wills.
Oh, I know Rick, yeah.
And Rick took a piece off the bottom of a toilet seat.
Yeah, the buffer, the little
soft
rubber
thing?
buffer.
Oh, yeah.
And he uses that by his pickup. So he rests his thumb on that.
Oh, well.
So we're searching around for old toilets to, you know, start a business right now.
Well, you should patent it if Rick hasn't already patented it. Fender toilet seat.
You know, it's let's start from the beginning. Gerry, now you started playing bass. Actually, you quoted as saying that Muddy Waters changed your life at the age of 13. Tell us about growing up in Belfast and being attracted to the blues.
I mean, what it was, we were actually very lucky because in Belfast there was like an old indoor market, which sadly has gone now, called Smithfield in the centre of Belfast. And they had a plethora of record stores for some reason. And one of these record stores, I can't remember, but they had the most amazing blues collections in there.
Okay.
There's a story that goes back to, you know, during the war when before D-Day, a lot of the young black GIs were actually stationed in Derry and Belfast before they went to Europe.
Okay.
And they brought their records with them, whatever, you know, and when they were a bit hard up, they would sell the records in these record stores, you know. That's the story, how it goes. So an amazing blues collection. I mean, Van Morrison's mother or father, I can't remember, had an amazing blues collection just because of that, you know. Van, obviously from Belfast as well. But with the Muddy Waters thing, Muddy came a bit later. I mean, when I was growing up in Belfast, I mean, we were playing the top 40 of the day. You know, you had to get a gig. You know, I mean, we were playing Tamla Motown, soul, whatever, you know, American, you know, pop stuff. And then a friend of mine managed to get hold of a John Mayall album, the John Mayall Blues Breakers, the famous one with the Eric Clapton comic, the Beano.
Beano.
Yes.
So we sort of listened to that and we're thinking, wow, this is completely different. This is, you know, we've never heard stuff like this. And Clapton's guitar playing was like something we'd never heard before. So obviously we did checking out the you know, who wrote the songs like Otis Rush, Willie Dixon, and so on. So then we started to investigate these guys, and then we found Muddy Waters, and I was like, wow, Muddy Waters, he was like, you know, heavy metal of his day. You know, he was like way over the top. It was incredible. And that's yeah, that's when I sort of really got stuck into the blues after.
You know, it's interesting. We speak to your peers, Rick Wills, Jim Rodford, Mickey Feet, Mo Foster. What is it about American blues, which is, I guess, music that's drawn from suffering, slavery, resonates so profoundly with the Irish and the British? What is it? What is the connection there?
Well, with the Irish, it's obviously slavery.
Okay.
No, don't quote me on that. That's a joke. It's hard. I don't know. I don't know if there's any you know, similarity between you know, the music and the way that people lived and you know, in the deep south or whatever it may be, where the music came from in Ireland.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, maybe because I mean there's suffering, like, and there was suffering in Ireland as well, you know. So maybe there's a connection there with that, you know. But I think it's just the sound of the music that turns us on, you know. I mean, more than anything else, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
I guess it was the right time at the right place kind of thing. Because you're bringing up, I'm thinking, well, to me, I guess the first popular Irish band was them.
Yeah, they were the first ones to sort of break out of Ireland.
Yeah.
And then obviously Van, after them, he went to the States, to the United States, and he based himself there for years. So he was probably the pioneer of all that, you know. I mean, prior to Van, I mean, we had folk groups that came from Ireland. The Clancy brothers, they moved to the States and made it their home as well, you know. So I mean, it's always been there, that sort of immigration sort of attitude, mental attitude, you know.
And if you think about it, the blues in its own way is a very, and not negative, a very simple thing, but the Irish and narrative and
Storytelling.
You could really understand the connection almost more so lyrically than musically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. There's the knowledge of storytelling. I mean, what the guys were doing, Muddy and those guys, they were storytelling.
Yeah.
You know, in quite a unique fashion.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, before that it was bebop, doo-wop, bop, bop, bop. But then these guys came along, and you listen to the lyrics and you go, oh my God, I mean, that's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
You know, so there is that. I mean, there is that nature of storytelling, which a lot of similarities with the Irish. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
Now, you grew up in a golden age. You talk about playing top 40. I don't think there's any better boot camp for a bass player than playing top 40 and the music of Motown or Tomlin in the UK. Must have had a tremendous effect on the bands and your peers.
Oh, it was because I mean that's in Belfast. All the bands were playing soul or Tamla Motown, and I mean I was hooked on Tamla Motown. I mean James Jamerson is one of my idols. You know, the famous one finger James Jamerson.
The Hook.
The Hook, and I used to listen to James Jamerson and those bass riffs, and I mean you could not help but get some knowledge from what that guy was doing, you know. And later on, Bob Babbitt, you know, another fantastic bass player from the same camp, from the Hitchville camp, you know.
Mhm.
I mean, you're very lucky to have grown up in the '60s and playing music in the '60s and been able to listen to those guys, because they were innovators.
Yeah.
I mean, throughout the '60s, we were lucky with innovation, you know, from the Beatles to Jimi Hendrix to whatever, you know. So yes, yeah, I'm not putting any modern music down, because I mean there's innovation in modern day music as well. But I think personally, you know, I was very lucky to have grown up and to listen to these guys and seen some of these guys live as well, which was I was very lucky as well.
At that time, the bass was really, as an instrument, it was in its infancy. Now, your first instrument was what, a top 20 bass? You got it in the Bell Music catalog?
That's right. Yeah. Well, I was a guitar player prior to
Right.
that, you know, and we lost a bass player, and our sort of band leader, Mr. Jim Ferguson, old friend of
You
mine.
went to be a butcher, right? Which is a solid career.
He said, "You're going to take over the bass now, McAvoy, you know, and that's it. You're out of the band." So that's how I became a bass player. And the first one was like top 20 from the old Bell catalog, you know. I think it's the same in the States with the Sears and Roebucks. I think it was
Right.
the same sort of thing, you know.
Do you still have it?
I don't. I don't. I think I can't remember. I gave it away or I swapped it. No, I swapped it for a Vox Cougar bass guitar,
Right. Okay.
which is pretty. It was pretty horrible as well.
But how did you explain? Because people didn't, you know, people look at you on stage and they see a guitar, so they think it's a guitar. How do you explain to people what does that instrument do?
Yeah, well, it's the bottom end of the band, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's the basis of the band, you know. I mean, you know, you wouldn't have rock and roll without a bass guitar and a drum.
Right. Without the electric. And then you got your hands on a 61P bass, yes?
I did, yeah. Luckily, my mother, God rest her, she managed to a hire purchase was called. You paid every week, you know, for it was £60, I think it was.
Wow, that was a lot of money.
That was a lot of money in those days, yeah.
And do you still have the 61P? You still?
No, that one went as well. It was actually it was sold because I mean that guitar went through the wars. That whole precision. I mean, I actually, without being knowledgeable about how guitar is built or how to maintain a guitar, I actually painted the guitar with house paint. So eventually, when I got to see a music technician, he managed to take all the house paint off it and lacquer it properly, you know. But it had been through the war, so I put it up for auction or for sale. It was in Christie's, actually, in London.
Oh.
It went up for auction at Christie's. I mean, that would have been sort of late '70s. And it was a Japanese collector bought it for a huge amount of yen, I believe.
Look at that. So you made money.
Huge amount of yen.
But and your Deep Joy was your like first real professional band where you started traveling?
That's right. Yeah, we made the initial move to London in 1970. I think it was May 1970. And we were lucky to be. We ended up in the same camp as Rory's band, Taste,
Right.
the Robert Sigwood organization, who had
Mhm.
Mary Clapton, so on, the Bee Gees, so on and so on. So we were lucky in that respect because we ended up doing quite a few shows with Taste, supporting
Right.
Taste and the band Deep Joy. Um, so we were lucky in that respect, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it was a very fertile music scene back then. I think you guys were working with the Faces. It was Small Faces at the time, I guess.
That's right, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Can you take us back there? What were some? Was there a sort of a camaraderie, or was there a friendly competition between the bands?
In Belfast or in London or what are we
London,
talking
in
about?
London, when you made to London.
In London, yeah. I mean, there was a sort of camaraderie between bands, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, we played with a lot of Atomic Rooster, we played with Taste, we played with 10 Years After,
Yeah,
loads of bands, and there was no backstabbing. There was no, everybody was fairly cool.
yeah.
Sort of help each other out.
Uh-huh. And then, how did Rory come to choose you? I know he broke up Taste, and they were, kind of a raucous trio, almost out of the mold of Cream.
Yeah.
But then I guess when he wanted to go under his own name, he picked you. I guess perhaps because he probably had a similar love for rhythm and blues, and you play with a rhythm and blues style.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Towards the end of 1970, after Taste had split up, I think they split up in October or something. 1970, we split up in December. Rory would come down to a couple of clubs that we were playing in with his brother Donald, and sort of sit down and check out the band. I mean, at the time, I thought he was just coming down, just have a drink and check out the band, and just. But I think maybe he was checking out myself and Wilger, the
Okay,
drummer at the time, who was
right.
drummer with Deep Joy. Um, and that was it. I mean, we went back to Belfast. I mean, we sort of gave up the ghost, with Deep Joy because it wasn't going anywhere, and we split up New Year's Eve. And then it must have been the end of January. I got a telephone call from Rory. At first, I thought it was Wilger because I heard the Irish accent, and then he said, "No, it's Rory here. Do you fancy coming over to London, to have a blow, to have a jam?" I went, "Wow, yeah." And that was it. So I flew over to London, and Wilger had stayed in London at this stage. He didn't come back to Belfast. So Donald, Rory's brother, picked me up at the airport, and we drove down to a little rehearsal room in Kensington, West London. And Rory was there, and Wilger was there already set up with the drums, and I didn't have a bass guitar with me, so there was a music store upstairs, and they got me a P bass, and we started just playing, and for about 3 hours, 3 or 4 hours, and it was amazing. It was fantastic. I mean, the simple fact. I mean, I was a fan. Don't forget. I mean, when I was a kid growing up in Belfast, I mean, we would go and see Taste in the famous Maritime Blues Club in Belfast, and you'd be there in the front going, "Wow, this guy's amazing," and to be standing there playing with him. And it's only then when I started playing, because I could play with Wilger because we were a rhythm section anyway. We knew each other's sort of patterns or whatever,
Yeah.
But just listening to Rory as we were playing, you just realized how good he was.
What was interesting for me, because in America, Taste was on Atco, which was an Atlantic subsidiary, and it was almost, because I really liked the band. I thought they pushed Cream a hell of a lot more than they did Taste. There were a great many similarities, but Rory, even back then, of course, his playing, just shine.
Well, I mean, the comparison between Cream and Taste. I mean, Cream were great, and Taste were great, but there was this energy thing that Taste had. I mean, Cream was sort of more sort of long solos, and which was great. I mean, I was a big fan of Jack Bruce, and he still am. God rest him. But it was this energy thing that Rory had with Taste. I mean, not just Rory, but John Wilson, the drummer, and Richard McCracken. I mean, the three of them were it was like a powerhouse.
Yeah,
It really was. Yeah.
Well, when you started, what was your? I guess your approach with Rory, because your trio with Rory was more, I think, song oriented. I mean, certainly you stretched out and improvised, but you were kind of more working the pocket and more supportive of Rory. Whereas you look at a band like Cream, and it was like three of them were soloing at the same time.
Yeah. That's it. Well, that was the way Rory wanted to do it. You know, I mean, you had to accept the fact that you were a sideman.
Right.
Both, you know, no matter who the musicians were with Rory, they were sidemen, you know. And I think maybe because of taste, I mean, not so much the musicians, but there was a lot of, you know, problems with the management and taste. And I think Rory sort of wanted to shy away from that, you know,
Okay.
and he wanted to be the you know, the captain of his own dreams. You know, he wanted to make his road, you know.
Right.
You know, that's why there was no management. I mean, Rory took care of everything until his brother eventually took over management. But Rory, he would keep his cards pretty close to his chest. You know.
And and was the type of band leader that sort of pretty much gave you leeway with what you wanted to play, or?
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, recording. I mean, when we rehearsed for an album, say, I mean, Rory wouldn't come in with a sheet, or, you know, he wouldn't come in with dots. He'd just come in, plug in, and start playing.
Okay.
And luckily, because I was a guitar player, so I knew the chords that Rory was playing, so I could follow it. He would never turn around and say, well, this goes from G to I minor, from E to... He would just play it, and we would pick it up. So within that, you could make up your own, you could do your own thing, you know, which Rory encouraged.
Yeah.
That's the best way to get things out of a musician, you know, to encourage it, you know.
Yeah. And I think, you know, one of the reasons I think your albums have sort of the exuberance, the excitement of a live performance is you guys were constantly on the road.
We were, yeah. Plus the fact, I mean, the way Rory recorded, he wanted to record live. He wanted to do like his heroes did, you know, because they recorded live.
Okay.
You know? I mean, some people say it was, you know, it was too, maybe he should have gone in a different direction, but that was Rory. That's the way he wanted it. I mean, the first couple of albums were completely live, the recordings, you know, in the studio.
Yeah, but you for a trio, and then I guess you had Lou Martin came along in 1972. You still had a very full sound.
Yeah. Well, I mean, within a trio, I mean, you learn yourself how to your notation must go in a different direction. In Japan, like in a 20-piece band, it's completely different because you have your own section, you have your own, you know. But and obviously, I mean the solos. I mean, Rory's solos were ad-libbed. You know, there was the same solo every night. So you would take off in that direction. And as I say, luckily, you know, being a guitar player as well, I could watch and see what he was doing. I could sort of feel what he was going to do before he did it sometimes.
Yeah. Okay. And then, I mean, you certainly, the bands you tour with, Frank Zappa, The Faces, Rush, all incredible artists. So you really had to rise to the occasion night after night.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, with Rush, I mean, luckily enough, the first tour Rush did of the States out of Canada was with Rory. So they were the support act for Rory. And later on, they became mega and invited Rory on the tour in 84, I think, 83, 84. And the other bands, I mean, I was a kid. I was 19 when we played with Frank Zappa in Milwaukee. And I'm thinking 19 years of age from Belfast, and here I'm at the side of the stage watching Frank Zappa. That's when he had the two guys from the Turtles.
Flo and Eddie.
Flo and Eddie, yeah. And Ainsley Dunbar on drums. So I mean, you know, as a kid, I mean, you know, playing the Whiskey a Go-Go when you're 19 years of age is like, wow, here we go. You know, what else can you do? What else is there?
Think about how many American kids wanted to do that and didn't.
Hey, listen, absolutely. You know, the only thing, I couldn't get a drink in the hotel bar. I was too young.
Well, you could have in New York. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, in New York you could have done. In California you couldn't.
Well, you know, I remember I had a friend who owned a hippie clothing store, and he was able to get imports. I think that company was Jet, an importer. So I
remember them. Yeah,
I got the first Rory album. I guess it was early '71, And wow, I mean, Hands Up was or should have been the hit single from that record.
I know what you mean. Yeah, it was fairly commercial. Yeah.
Yeah, but a great record. You guys sounded great. It's a
Yeah,
good
I mean, I think it was less raucous than Taste. You know, it was a lot. It was a little bit more gentle, that album, than the previous, like On the Boards Taste album. You know, which was like fairly, you know, hard rock, blues rock. And I think that Rory sort of wanted to, he was testing the water with that album, you know, as far as his writing was concerned. So there was jazz influence, there was blues influence, and there was a little bit of pop in there as well, you know. So
Yeah.
it was an interesting album.